Hello and welcome to our feature presentation, Power Presenter Points. I'm your host, James D. Feldman, and in our short time today, I am going to give you some high-level tips and tools that will turn your PowerPoints into great visual presentations. Get out a pencil, a pad, whatever you use to record your information, because there's a lot to take down, a lot to implement, and more importantly, a lot to practice. How would you like to become a PowerPoint rock star? Well, it's not that difficult. It's really not. Before we're done today, you will go from average to superior, superior to excellent, and excellent to master PowerPoint presenter. Let's get started. Look, let's be candid. We could spend days, if not weeks, learning about PowerPoint. These are just a few of the topics that I cover in my several-day workshop on becoming a PowerPoint presenter professional. Wow, that's a mouthful. But at the end of the day, most of you just want to have better presentation skills. And that starts with understanding some of the powerful tools that are available to you in either PowerPoint or Keynote. As you look at your presentation, have you thought about how your audience will react? Do you have a clear message? Do you focus on the benefits for them because they are spending time with you and they expect something in return? Now, let me caution you. This is a tutorial. This is not a typical PowerPoint presentation. So as a result, a lot of the slides are copy intensive. But it's done so that you've got references, so that you've got fallback positions that you can review and become a better PowerPoint presenter. Bullets and bullet points can kill a presentation, but they don't have to be boring. First of all, are you a storyteller? Are you using visuals to support your story? And are you sharing your wisdom? Let me distinguish. Knowledge is free. People pay for wisdom. Are you able to charge for your wisdom? And are you specific about what they will learn? When someone sits down to watch you either live or virtually, they have certain expectations. They're going through the, well, what if I leave? What if I miss something? What if I don't care? What if they haven't addressed my personal needs and my personal issues? You've got to grab them. You've got to bring them into your story and let them feel that you understand their what is in it for me. Write that down. WIIFM. Always ask yourself in every presentation that you do, what's in it for your audience? Why do they care about what you're saying? Look, typically, presentations come under one of four different categories: to inform, to entertain, to persuade, and to inspire. 1, 2, 3, 4. Typically, you can get two of them, but not all four of them. I don't recommend you go beyond two, but I've seen people actually go to three. Again, what does your audience think? Well, I'll tell you what your audience thinks. Here's 10 points of what your audience hates about your presentation. Let's go over them very quickly. Number one, it's all about you. I don't care about you. Certainly, I want to know that you're an expert. Certainly, I want to know that you've got credentials. But after that, enough is enough. Are you boring them with facts or are you talking about emotion? Facts tell, emotions sell. Are you disorganized? Do you wander all over the place, or is it a very clear step, stone, ladder, whatever visual you like that moves you from point A to point B to point C up to the top? Are you getting caught up in all the tools of transitions and animations that are available in PowerPoint? They are useful, but sometimes overused. Be diligent in how you use them. I happen to like using transitions or animations to bring forward a focus. Like you noticed on these 10 points, they came up individually. I could have done it slower. I could have done all kinds of things about it, but I wanted to show you that there were 10 points I was going to build upon. Do you use lots of charts? People get bored with charts. What about humor? How many times have you sat in a presentation where the guy didn't smile or the woman didn't tell a joke or tell a story that brought about the humanization of who that presenter was? And what about those people that just don't have passion or enthusiasm? I love PowerPoint. I've been doing PowerPoints for years. I started with 35 millimeter slides before all of this fancy schmancy computer stuff. That's right, I'm old. But along the way, I've learned how to harness the power of a good PowerPoint presentation. And be careful you don't give too much information overload. Now, once again, this is a tutorial. You want information overload. That's why you tuned in to watch this presentation. You don't want me to just throw out one point here and then wander on and later on another point. You want meat. You want substance. In this case, it's a buffet. But again, buffets can be too much. So I've been very careful of what I've curated, but alerting you to the fact that this just barely touches on what PowerPoint can do. And did you get engaged? Were you interested in getting to the next point, getting to the next slide, because the information was so relevant to what? What's in it for me? Now, it's like a circus. It's like anything else. The show must go on. Now, I've taken a little liberty here. I've added myself to the circus because I want to change the world. And if you want to change the world, you can't be afraid of the circus. So today I'm your ringleader. I'm your ringmaster for our mini tutorial on PowerPoint. So who am I? I've done over 1,000 live presentations. I've shared the platform with people like Colin Powell. I've presented to some of the biggest corporations in the world like AT&T and Aria, the Tribune magazine. I have been fortunate enough to be categorized as an excellent speaker, along with world-renowned speakers like Les Brown and Nita Quabain and Brian Tracy. And oh yeah, the guy on the left, that's me. I'm considered a peer. I'm humbled and honored that these icons of presentation history recognize me as someone that is very good at persuasive presentations. And my client base attests to that. Coke, Colleen Curtis, Toyota, Xerox, and more. And even the fun part is when I get a client like Motion Picture Licensing Corp, and they were kind enough to allow me to get my favorite cohorts to be part of my office. That's right, Alvin and the Chipmunks stood in my office for years as a reminder to share the humor, share the story. When you're talking about serious subjects, to say the Department of Defense or the Veterans Administration, Carnival, Hyatt, Think about the size of these companies and the size of the problems that they face. And I was fortunate enough to present to them, always using Apple, always using Apple equipment. I think of what I do as a movie or a television show. And it's up and down and peaks and valleys in presentations. So here we go. I believe a persuasive presentation starts with your credibility. If the audience doesn't understand who you are and why they should listen to you, they will turn you off in a matter of minutes. You've got to establish the value proposition. Why are you here and what are you going to do for what? They're with them. What's in it for me? And am I honest or am I a blowhard? Look, I can talk about things and I can exaggerate and I can pontificate, but at the end of the day, they are based in fact and not fiction. I establish a connection with the audience and I tell them about their calls to action, all of it. Again, supporting what's in it for me. And that's why I get paid. Because I bring value, credibility, honesty, connection to my persuasive presentations. Now, there are lots of barriers to presentations. First of all, set your goal. What is it that you want them to leave with? And then start to look at the roadblocks along the way. First of all, there's never enough time. And you get brain locked where you can't think about how much time it's going to take. And then you get stumped. Ideas refuse to flow. All the while, the clock is ticking. All the while, you're being asked to meet the deadline. All the while, you're saying in your head, what's in it for them? And then you do something silly. You start to cut and paste from other presentations. Don't do it. Stop it. Because when you do that, everything seems important. And go back and look at the path that you've got to follow. Look at how tough it is. Now, you didn't realize it, but those were 4 bullet points. They weren't boring. They came up one at a time using animations. I animated the slide to make it less than static because I wanted to add entertainment value. I understand my audience. And more importantly, I understand that all audiences are not the same. So you have to learn to adapt to every audience. And by learning to adapt, you start to ask yourself 3 questions. Who is the last person you want to motivate in the room? What action do you want them to take, and why should they take it? I'm going to give you a second to write those down. You need to be able to answer those 3 questions in every presentation you do. If not, you lose the WIIFM. If it's a live presentation, your audience may walk out. And if it's a virtual presentation, you'll never know if they've turned you off, or they've become distracted, or they've just let it run and walked away. 3 questions you should ask in every presentation you make, whether it is to entertain, to inform, to persuade, to sell, whatever your objectives, these questions are applicable. And always couched under what's in it for me. Now, this may be new to you, but that symbol is not. That symbol stands for Wi-Fi. I think what we're doing is providing wow Wi-Fi. And so what's in it for me and Wi-Fi share a similarity. And it's all about connectivity. That's right. Wi-Fi connects you to the internet. PowerPoints and presentations connect you to your wisdom. So every time you see that Wi-Fi symbol, think about your own Wi-Fi connectivity in your presentations. Look, vision trumps all the other senses. That's right. Vision trumps all the other senses from the standpoint that you cannot ignore it. Now, what happened during this call is you heard what I thought was my muted phone. It became distracting. But you didn't see me react. I just let it play out because I knew you were engaged in what I was saying and what you were seeing. Is there any doubt what the message is here in this photograph? So rule number one is pair one image with one clear idea. Focus on WIIFM and don't make your audience work too hard. I personally believe that visuals are the foundation of every presentation. I only use high-res images. I use stunning images. Look at this picture. In some cases, you can't take your eyes off of it. I want to keep it simple. I want cool fonts. Notice as I'm doing my building blocks here, the fonts are changing because each one is to call out a reason why it's a building block. Stunning images. Keep it simple. Cool fonts. WIIFM and awesome colors. Look at this. Is it simple? Is it compelling? Does it drive home the point? And oh yeah, 5 bullet points. But they didn't appear or feel like standard bullet points. Look, when you compose your slides, keep it simple. I like readable, fun fonts. I don't use the standard Arial and Calibri because they're overused. I'm a professional. I don't want you to think anything about me is the same as anybody else that you've seen. So when I've got a highlight, I change the color. I try to use minimal copy, and I keep the fonts consistent. Notice these fonts have changed. Notice the colors have changed. This is to demonstrate how you can compose your slides. Copy's got to be readable. This is default copy. Readable? Yes. Boring? Yes. Compelling? Not so much. But what's the purpose? The purpose is to say you need 28 to 32 point minimum. I didn't want you to be distracted with the font or the color. I wanted to drive home the point. I always highlight with visuals. High resolution visuals. And when you're formatting your master slide, you want to remember that slides, 35 millimeter slides, were always 4:3. Now, why would you ever today do a 4:3? Because you've done your homework and you found out that your presentation is using a standard old screen, not an elongated one, but the original 4:3. Now, if you have a 16:9 on a 4:3, you end up with black borders at the top and black borders at the bottom. You've wasted space. If you format for 4:3, it'll fill the screen. Do your homework. If you're doing a virtual presentation, everything is 16:9 because it's on a tablet, it's on a phone, or it's on a PC, and those are all elongated formats. And remember, type smaller than 28 points is extremely difficult to read. 32 is the minimum in my mind. You could always go bigger, but don't go smaller. Now, when you get started, I want you to go in and set up your master slide. And you'll see that under View or Master Slide or Format at the top of whether you're using Keynote or PowerPoint. But in every case, there's a way to format your slide. And when you format your slide, you decide on what the font is for the title and what the font is for the copy and anything else that you want. Like here's a template that I'm going to use. And every time you change templates, you need to create a new master slide. The time that you spend creating your master slide will save you hours of frustration later on. So let me help you with that. These are my top favorite combinations of fonts. The first font is the title, and the second font is the body. Now, I'll leave this up for a moment so you can take a screenshot. You can copy it down. In this presentation, I'm using number 7. Why? Because most of you don't see that every day. Chunk 5, Roman, and high tower. Why? Because chunk is great for title. It's punchy. It's in your face. It's bold. And high tower is refined. It's much more like an engraving script. It's much more elegant. And it elevates the visual of the copy. Got it? Going to move on. Now, people use graphs. This is a yummy start of a graph. It looks like a candy mint. But what's wrong with this graph? Well, look at it for a moment. Answer the questions yourself and let me then explain why this is not a good graph. Number 1, look how small the numbers are. Clearly, they're not using the 28 or the 32 points. But even more importantly, what's this graph all about? I don't know. Do you? So here's someone that took the time to create yummy in terms of the visual, but what? They forgot the what's in it for me. See how that always comes back and resonates in every slide? Look, here's some websites. These are things you're going to want to screenshot. You're going to want to go in and look at them. But once again, I've done it in a plain font. I haven't highlighted anything, haven't recommended anything. I'm just giving you information. Did I violate my own rules? No. I'm consistent in how I deliver information in a copy-intensive referral or reference to help you with your PowerPoint. Now, here's a good tip for you to understand. When you go on the internet and search for an image, it doesn't mean you can use it. That's right, it's copyrighted, it's intellectual property. So what you do when you start your Google search is you go into Tools, you move over to Usage Rights, and you click down to Common Licenses, Royalty-free, etc. And it will filter out images depending on what you've checked. Let me explain. Images are not free unless they tell you they're free. The fact that it's on the internet does not mean it's free and you can use it. Look, there's thousands of resources out there for free. Why would you get in trouble? Here's 3 of them I use all the time: Unsplash, Pixels, and Pixabay. That represents about 2 million images. I'm pretty sure you're going to find what you're looking for there. But what you don't want to do is use Getty or Big Stock or Adobe because they're not free. Now hear me out. Those images may be better, more applicable for what you're trying to do, in which case, pay for it. Pay the $5, $10, whatever it is, and then you're going to get a license to be able to use it and sleep at night. Hear me out. If you use a Getty image without their permission, they will hunt you down. They will send you a cease and desist letter and they will fine you. Is it really worth it? Pay them their fee or don't use it. They're in business to make money and they're entitled to it. Same with Adobe and Big Stock and hundreds of other sites that sell their images. Now, let me be very clear. I use Getty and Big Stock and Adobe, and I pay for the image. Why? Because in some cases, it was the only place that had exactly what I wanted. And to pay 10 bucks a month or $30 a year or whatever it was, gave me access to hundreds, if not thousands, of more applicable images, and I thought it was worthwhile. But if you don't want to pay for it, then don't use them. Go to the free sources. Here it is, the first WII FM strictly for people that have stayed on it to watch my first big freebie. This is the behind the curtain. This is what I use to create my PowerPoints, my infographics, my videos. This is how I function. Look at this one, Loom Cube. This is how I'm lighting myself right now with a little device the size of a pack of cards for about $70. Clips on my computer and illuminates my face. When I'm looking for images, I go to Pixabay, I go to Unsplash. When I'm looking for fonts, sometimes I've found someone else's font, but I don't know what it is. So I copy it, I go to what font, and what font will then identify the name of the font. And then I go find the font and pay for the font using the flipbook or the free graphics or whatever media I need to put that font into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your toolbox. This is how you move forward. And because you're listening to me, I've got one that is not on the list, but only Audible. Font Squirrel. Go to Font Squirrel and you will be able to download thousands of free fonts. Okay? Was it worthwhile? Was it worth staying up to now? Well, hopefully there's more, right? Okay. Once you get into feeling comfortable about your PowerPoints, then you can start the color palette. What colors show up? Notice here I've got a light pink line against a dark purple background, etc. Those are all done in your Slide Master, and these are all tools to help you make it visually more attractive. And remember to have a takeaway. Just like going to the Chinese restaurant, you get the little box and you walk out with some goodies. That's what a good presentation gives you. Takeaways. Things that you could use. Things that you are grateful that you spent some of your valuable time learning. And more importantly, things to help you deliver the WII-FM. Now here's the big one. Because you stayed this long, this is the aha, woohoo, thank you, Jim, OMG, free templates. Slide Model offers, at no charge, these gorgeous templates. There are hundreds of them. Some are animated. Every one of them is editable. Every one is royalty free. And every one can be incorporated to make you a better presenter. So between the list that I gave you, the icon listings of those references, and this webinar has taken you from wherever you are now to perhaps where you want to be. And I'm glad to have been part of it because I believe in giving back. I believe that if you like this one, you're going to look for the next Feldman presentation because of the value I offered, the fact that I addressed your WII-FM, because it was visual, and because I was mindful of rewarding you for your time. That's right. I have a minimal rule. I want it to be short, I want it to be distinctive, and I want it to be valuable. Are you doing that? Ask yourself. Look, there's no shortage of good ideas. They all flow from the same fountain. But when you turn the water on, it's like water's flowing out of our brain. It's like drinking from a fire hose. But sometimes it gets mercury and you can't use it. But if you let it flow long enough, then you get clear water. Now, this is a very simple illustration using a GIF, an image, and copy. But look how compelling it is. One idea, one image, one focus. Number 3, and what I want to teach you is never wing your speech. Practice, practice, practice. As many times as I've given this presentation, I rehearsed this 3 times prior to videotaping it. Why? Because I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted to do the WIFM best as I could. You cannot over practice. You wouldn't get on a road race. You wouldn't get on a cross-country bike ride if you didn't practice. Why would you do the same thing with any PowerPoint? When given a TED Talk, one of the most important lessons I heard from a speaker was this: the shorter the talk, the longer the preparation. Wow. Drove the point home for me. If I'm doing an all-day event, I can be wordy, I can pontificate, I can wander around. If I'm doing a 30 to 45-minute presentation, I've got to be laser focused and be mindful of the ticking clock. I do my homework. I do my research long before I start my PowerPoints. I get it up here, I put it on paper, I practice it. Look, remember this guy? This is a presentation he actually gave. What is he selling? What is he talking about? Where's the WIIFM? Certainly one of the brightest people in the world, but not one of the best presenters. He needed to cut through the junk. Now remember, when you go buy nuts in a shell, it's by weight. So 80% of what you're paying for is thrown away. But somehow our brains have been accustomed to paying for that because we focus on the core. Do the same in your presentation. Look at how Steve Jobs presented. Minimalist, focused, clear, large readable type. Let me make a comparison for you. Are you interested in looking at the left side or the right side? For me, Steve Jobs was one of the greatest presenters I've ever seen. Bill Gates always flooded the room with information, but you walked out without a WIIFM. Steve Jobs always focused on the WIIFM. Your audience, as I said before, was different. You got to understand who they are so that you can focus on them. Look, this guy may turn you off because of all of the jewelry and tattoos, etc., but he happens to be the CEO of a very successful big company. He just happens to like tats and motorcycles. We're all different. We no longer can determine who our audience is. We need to understand who our audience is and focus on making a difference. Look, here's a photograph I took. I made it black and white. Then I got a picture of a flower that was in color, and I made a compelling visual. Look at how you're drawn to that immediately. Focus on making a difference for others. Remember this: the audience files you away almost immediately as either boring or interesting. You don't have time to bring them back because they've already checked out. Are you boring or are you interesting? Are you an expert in your field? Do you serve many customers? Are you a superstar? Do you have wisdom people will pay for? Look, another set of bullet points, a visual that supported it, and bullet points that came up that were interesting, colorful, and grabbed your attention. Another set of bullet points, but all being done graphically. Am I making my point? Bullet points don't have to be boring. And never, ever, ever give a presentation you wouldn't want to attend. That's right. If it bores you, it's going to put the audience to sleep. So number 5 is continually grow your skills. You're here today because you think you might be able to learn something about PowerPoint. I've talked about the problem and I've offered you a solution. I was relevant to your needs. And in doing so, I brought you a big idea. Notice how this is coming up as if it was a soundbite. Notice how it's not fighting the image on the side, which is colorful, different, etc. Tell people what they're going to learn. Show them that they've learned it, and then remind them what they've learned. The big idea is that the WIFM should be, wow, I am so glad I attended that presentation. And no matter whether you're doing it live or virtual, dress up. When's the last presentation you saw that somebody actually had on a tie? Certainly, I'm trying to show respect to you that this is a professional presentation delivered by a professional presenter who dressed up for the occasion. And do your charts and your graphs. Carry that forward. Image is everything. Let me repeat. High res, yummy. Avoid bullets that kill. Types, 28 to 32 is a minimum. And if you think of it as a billboard, you'll get through it. Here it is. The audience listens. You find their pain. You help them through their struggle. And you continually observe and listen to whatever feedback is available. And if possible, get input from your audience before the presentation. Get them on your side. Understand their pain. Look, it's like going to a doctor. The nurse comes in and asks you 50 questions. The doctor doesn't come in and guess. He says, based on your survey, this is what the problem is. Correct? Yes. Well, let's examine your right leg. No, I said it was my left leg. My mistake. He didn't read it correctly. Certainly it happens. Don't get pulled into the wrong direction, especially if you've articulated the problem. Mistakes happen. The audience will remind you. Listen. And never, ever, 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 ever read a script. Modulate. Change your tone. Remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Bueller. 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 That's right. Everybody was looking for Bueller. It's called a handout for a reason. You see, you can't read this. You can't read this because it's gone over to the other side. This was intentional. It was intentional to say that I teed you up for a handout that you can't read, and now you're upset. Well, the good news is I'm going to provide you a PDF of this entire presentation. And you don't have to rely on this. But here's a perfect example of good intent with lousy execution. Somebody did not rehearse. If you've established your value, if you've given good information, if you offer some kind of follow-up, then you've done a great job with a compelling call to action, which hopefully is more business for you. Remember to pamper your audience. Here it is, step by step by step by step. Start with visual slides. Simplify complex ideas. Practice so that you're confident in your delivery. Set up an engaging communication style. And magnetize, materialize, memorize, and monetize. That was fun. Magnetize, materialize, memorize, monetize. All right, I took some alliteration, but give me a break. Review these steps. Here it is, the summation of today. Do your research. Focus on the audience. Organize your ideas in a concise manner. Structure the presentation from the WIIFM and build the deck. Then go back and structure it again. Then go back and look at how you're organized. And then you've got a powerful PowerPoint presentation. Every Thursday, I offer more tips. And my most recent book is on Amazon. It's a toolbox. If you liked what you saw here today, it's almost 300 pages of tools, tips, and resources. And in addition, the book comes with one-on-one coaching. You want to have a coach that you can talk to after you've read the book, and you want to join me every Thursday for the Tactical Thursday presentations. I promise you won't be disappointed. And this is how you find me. If you need any suggestions, email me, look me up, link with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm there for you. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your attention. And I want to thank you for becoming a better PowerPoint presenter.